everyone, this is Michael with MTS4K here to do another video review. This time I'm going to be doing a review of some of the best accessories that you can get for an Apple smart home setup. I'm going to cover everything from smart outlets to smart light bulbs, even smart garage door openers and smart door locks. I've tried it all. I have some of my favorite things out there that I want to recommend and show you guys today. And then also in a future video, I'll be doing something to cover an overall experience of Apple HomeKit and using these accessories to do some really sweet stuff you wouldn't even consider. Let's get into it. All right, so first up, let's talk about what you're gonna need to set up an Apple HomeKit, a smart home experience for you. First thing you're gonna need, it's obvious, an iPhone. You gotta have an iPhone capable of running the latest operating system. So iOS 17 is gonna be coming out in the next few weeks. You're gonna wanna make sure that that device can run iOS 17. There's a lot of new features coming to iOS 17, some that I'm actually really excited for, such as activity logging, like if a door opens and closes, things like that. They're all coming in iOS 17, so you're really gonna wanna be able to take advantage of those features. So make sure your iPhone can run the latest operating system. This next thing you're gonna wanna make sure you have is a good router. So if you don't think you have a good router or you're not sure, there's two I recommend. The first one, which is gonna be the budget option, is the Google Nest Wi-Fi router. That usually fluctuates between like 140 and 180 on Amazon. You can get it with just the router, or a router and an access point, or a router and two access points. So you kind of have a variety of options to get the best spread across your house for Wi-Fi coverage. And it's also gonna help because all three access points, or the router and the two access points, will be able to actually juggle all the devices in your home, so it's not one router getting overloaded. That being said, my personal favorite and my personal recommendation is going to actually be the Amplify Alien router that I'm using. I love that thing. The Nest router worked fine, and I never had any dropouts or anything. It just worked great. But the Amplify Alien router had some really cool features, and also, I think, in my opinion, compared to a Google product, better privacy settings and privacy configurations. Amplify, in their user agreements and all that stuff, they specify to never use any customer data or track any of your data that goes through the router, what websites you're visiting, anything like that. Google does not say those things, to my knowledge. So, yeah, that was one of the big reasons I switched. I just wanted the privacy factor and also a lot of the features that Amplify Alien gives you that Google doesn't, such as the ability to VPN directly from your phone to your home router at the click of a button. I mean, it's the simplest VPN I've ever configured. It was amazing. So that's going to be the router I recommend. Amplify Alien router, though, is going to cost you like $300-ish, $350. And then if you want to get a mesh version of it that comes with two routers, that one's going to cost you more like $600. So those ones are significantly more expensive than the Google Nest Wi-Fi router. So that's why I'm giving you a couple options. But in my personal opinion, I like the Alienware router better. So that's what I'm going to recommend on that one. All right, so now we got the base laid down for the smart home we want to build. Now we got to start adding some devices and some functionality that we're wanting to use with it. So for me and my family, one of the first things we're going to add is obviously going to be a HomePod, specifically a HomePod Mini. We have a HomePod Mini in every room in our house, and it's really nice because you get to a point where at some point in your HomeKit experience, you never have to think about what direction is my speaker, or can it hear me, or am I facing it? Am I facing the right one? It's just whatever room you're in, you just say the command and the HomePod takes it from there. It's an amazing experience. It's really great. I could not be happier with it. Also, HomePod Minis, you can usually get them for like $80, $85 if you get them at Costco, or you can get them for $90, $100 on Amazon and Apple. It kind of fluctuates, but yeah, so I mean, theoretically, you got 6 rooms in your house, you want to put one in each room, it's, you know, $600 or $540, so it's still a bit of money. But not only are you getting the ability to control your smart home in every single room in your house, you're getting the ability to set timers in every room in your house, make phone calls from every room in your house, send text messages from every room in your house, get text messages read to you from every room in your house. There's just so many things that you're getting in addition to just being able to control your smart home. So, and then obviously, you know, play music. Like I like to play music and just play everywhere, and every room in the house just bursts out in the same song. Like I love that. So the HomePod is going to be the first thing that I absolutely recommend. Get a HomePod Mini. If you want the audio quality, you can spring for a HomePod. They're really cool. I have a Gen 1 HomePod. It's what we use in our living room for our TV speaker, but man, that's a pricey speaker. So that's up to you if you want to buy that one. Those are like $300-$350 depending on which generation you get. You can get them used on Facebook Marketplace for a lot cheaper, especially the earlier generation ones, but that's a lot of money for a speaker. Next up, what you're going to want to add, and this is going to be a pretty important one too, is going to be an Apple TV 4K. You can probably maybe get away with an Apple TV, but I would recommend an Apple TV 4K, mainly because the 4K model, especially the top tier one, includes support for Thread, which I'll go on about in a little bit later in the video, but that's a really, really important thing you're going to want to have for an iOS HomeKit configuration. So make sure you get an Apple TV if you can. It's gonna be worth it for you, and I'll talk about some of the features with the Thread part of that a little bit later, but at least having the Apple TV, what that's gonna enable you to do is be able to control your TV volume, what you're watching, all from your HomePod. So in our house, you can say things like, hey, go back, or hey, play this song, or whatever, play the song on living room TV. You can say things like, hey, turn off the living room TV, or whatever command you want to. You can interact with your TV in a variety of ways. It's kind of nice. It's just different. Like, you don't really think about it at some point. Like, you're walking out the front door, you're like, hey, blank, turn off the living room TV, and that's it. Like, it's a nice little thing to have. And then there's also some added features, like I'll get into this in another video, but when you build some shortcuts, your HomePod can access the shortcuts you build on your iPhone and utilize them. So like, I built a shortcut where I say, hey blank, switch to kids, and my living room TV will automatically switch to the kids profile on the Apple TV 4K instead of my profile. So then when they start watching their shows, it doesn't show up on my watch history, it shows up on theirs. It enables more and more features of the ecosystem to start to flow between devices. And then obviously, like, when your watch history is correct, that carries over to your phone and your MacBook and your iPad. Like, there's so many things. So Apple TV 4K, definitely recommended. Obviously you don't have to get it, but some of the best features are going to come from having that. So that's something I definitely want to recommend. Next up is going to be lights. So you probably, if you're looking at a smart home video, you probably looked at other smart home stuff around and noticed that Philips Hue bulbs are expensive, insanely expensive. It's not super fun. This is probably one of the more expensive sections of the video in terms of what you want to purchase to make your HomeKit smarter or better. So usually you can get a pack of Philips Hue lights for maybe, like, if you do the white ones, I think it's like $80 for 4 bulbs. Obviously you have a lot more than 4 bulbs in your house, but if you just want to enable, like, I want this lamp to just be smart, and I want this lamp to be smart, and then this ceiling fan, that enables you to just do that with 4 bulbs for $80. So you can do that if you want. But one of the nice things about Hue, and why I specifically recommend them over any other smart lighting manufacturer, is a couple reasons, but particularly it's because they just work so well with really, really good reliability. So for my HomeKit setup, I purchased one that came with 4 white Philips Hue lights and then the hub. And what the hub does is, instead of having every single smart bulb in your house, like right now I think there's like 20 something in our house, instead of having all 20 of them individually connecting to the router to be maintained through our router, they all connect to the hub, and then the hub connects to the router. So the hub is specifically designed to maintain the connection to all the lights, so my router can focus on doing what it needs to do, which is getting data everywhere else. That's a really important thing to have. And I think also, if you get a hub, it also increases the maximum amount of bulbs you can use at your house. So that's kind of an added perk, but you definitely want to get a hub just to increase, the actual speed of your wireless connection and everything, and make sure everything stays consistently solid. You want to get a Philips Hue hub and then Philips Hue bulbs. What we've done is we got a bunch of the white bulbs, in any room where we're like, we don't need any splashes of color, we don't need anything like that, we're not crazy, we're not rich, we don't need anything nuts, we just put white bulbs in there. And then for rooms like the kids' playroom or like the basement or whatever, that's where we put a couple of the color changing Philips Hue bulbs in there. And then those ones are really neat because you can actually like sync them with the Hue app and Spotify. And when you play music, you can make the bulbs pulse in different colors around the room that you're in. You actually build, I believe they're called entertainment areas, and then you're like, yep, I'm playing music in this entertainment area, and this is the, you know, Spotify, and you connect it to Philips Hue, and bam, the lights can just start pulsing to the music, and you can choose what colors will show, you can choose the intensity, you can set the brightness, so if you want like a really low but, you know, chill vibe, or like really bright but really colorful, like it's a really cool experience. So Philips Hue enables a lot of really awesome features like that, and has really incredible reliability, which I think is part of what you're paying for with that price tag. So definitely recommend Philips Hue bulbs. I know Apple in their store and stuff recommends Nanoleaf. I've not tried Nanoleaf. I don't have an opinion on them. I've used the Philips Hue, and I've used a variety of Hue, by the way. I didn't just use the bulbs. We use the A bulbs, we use the color bulbs. We actually have one of the Hue makes a front door, I think the term is sconce. They make a front door sconce, so it's like the lantern looking thing that you put right next to your front door. They make that. It's also smart. And then they make one for the backyard. Or I guess the same thing. We have one in the front and the back. And then they also make a floodlight, and we have the floodlight mounted right over our patio, so we can get any color, white or whatever, just projected out onto our patio in a floodlight made by Hue that's controlled by my Apple HomeKit setup. I mean, it's really great. And their website, I mean, there's thousands of bulbs, and they make lights that aren't even supposed to face outward. They're supposed to face a wall and light that wall up a certain color. And they make like a DVD player looking thing that you can plug your PS5 or any, you know, thing into, and it'll actually take the data being transmitted from that device, read it, pass it on to your TV, and then make the bulbs around behind the TV or in your room match the content you're seeing on the screen. It's insane. They have the coolest stuff. I haven't bought all that stuff because some of that stuff's pretty expensive. The one that actually makes your video content match your lights in your room, that's like a $300 thing, I think, or $200 something dollars. And then you gotta get the lights, you gotta attach them to your TV, you know, if you want to have the behind the TV experience. Just a lot, but plenty of features, plenty of options. Definitely recommend Philips Hue. So one of the next things you're probably going to want for a smart house is going to be smart outlets. There's a couple different ways you can go with this. Philips Hue, which I just finished going over, they do make smart outlets, and the smart outlets can connect to the Hue hub, be managed by Hue, get firmware updates through the Hue app, and those work great. I have no issues with those. If you want to get those, if you want to go all in on Hue, that's awesome. Go for those. For me, one of the things that I really love is going to be Eve. So Eve Energy, they make these outlets that have something called Thread built into them. And what Thread does is Thread creates a secondary network totally separate from your Wi-Fi network between all of your Thread-enabled devices on your HomeKit setup. So if you have a HomePod, your HomePod supports Thread. If you have an Apple TV, your Apple TV supports Thread. And you have, let's say, an outlet in your bedroom. If your Wi-Fi goes out and you tell your HomePod, hey, turn off, you know, the lights in the bedroom, it can actually still do that because your HomePod hears the command, and they have a limited availability of off-network commands where they can support like turn the lights off, you know, set a timer, things like that. So it hears that, and it knows bedroom, and it knows light. So it literally will connect through, not through your Wi-Fi because your Wi-Fi is down, it'll connect through Thread to that outlet and turn it off. And it just works. Even though your Wi-Fi is completely down and you have no internet in your home, it still functions. So Thread's really cool. There's a lot of things that you can get with Thread. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, our door locks function with Thread. We do have like Apple smart home enabled door locks that work with, you know, Apple HomeKey. So you just tap your watch or your phone to the door and it unlocks and you're in. But the Eve Energy outlets are awesome. That Thread thing I mentioned, you should never have to use that. But I have had to use that. There's been several times back before we switched to CenturyLink. We had a different ISP, Cox, and they had outages all the time. But you could still utilize those outlets and control them with your HomePod even when your internet was out. So that was a really cool feature, having Thread. When you go into the Eve app, you can actually see every single Thread-enabled device on your HomeKit configuration and you can see which one's the main router and which ones are listeners, and it'll show you like this one right now is the parent and all of these ones are the child, like they're listening for the parent connection to make sure they stay connected. But like, let's say you unplug, you know, a thread enabled device, when you unplug it, all the other ones on that network suddenly notice, hey, I don't know where that is. I don't know where that is. They just drop it. It just disconnects from that thing and it picks a new router and it just keeps going. Like, it's seriously amazing. And Thread is cool too on top of that, because it can also kind of extend your device connections past where your normal Wi-Fi network would end. So for example, if your router's on one end of the home, but you have something Thread enabled in your garage, right? Like a door sensor or whatever, which I'll get into in a minute. It can actually piggyback that connection, that Thread connection, off each device on the way there to the one in your garage, which is insane. So even if the one in your garage has basically no Wi-Fi connection, you can still control it because the outlet in the kitchen or whatever's closest to the garage can just beam the command to it still. So super cool. Love that stuff. It's just great. Thread is amazing. So for smart outlets, I recommend Thread. I recommend Eve Energy with Thread, excuse me. I think that's going to be your best bet. But I've used the Philips one in a couple situations where I did not have an Eve outlet available at the time, and the Philips Hue one worked great and never had any outages either. So everything worked great with those. Hey guys, so while I was editing this video, I realized that I left one very important thing out. A whole category of devices for smart homes that I totally love and really recommend these two. That's going to be these Fibaro flood sensors. I personally like the Fibaro ones. I know that Eve also makes flood sensors. There's a bunch of different companies that make flood sensors. What's my favorite thing about these in particular compared to any of the other ones out there is that these ones are battery powered. So you literally open it up, pair it with your smart home, put it under the sink, put it in the bathroom, put it in the kitchen. I actually have one tucked away in the corner of our basement where there's been some water leakage at one point in the past. And I have it just tucked away there. So if there's ever heavy rains or whatever, I don't even need to think about it. But if it ever senses any water, not only does it make a very loud beep, like what you heard a minute ago, but it also will actually notify me on all my Apple devices that like, hey, water was detected in the bathroom or in the kitchen sink, or, you know, wherever I have it set up. So it's a small little thing, but flood sensors I think can make or break you know, some people's houses, and I think it's incredible to have one if you can. So these are super easy. I highly recommend these. I even bought replacement batteries, so every couple years or every year and a half when the battery dies, I just swap it out, put it right back in place, and never think about it. But I can tell you it's saved me multiple times where my kids are playing in the sink and spilling water everywhere, and then I hear the beeping, I look at my phone, water under the bathroom sink, and I'm like, what are you guys doing in there? And they were pouring cups of water somewhere they weren't supposed to. So anyway, just wanted to add this in there. Fibaro flood sensor, definitely recommend that. If you're building a smart home that encompasses a lot of different things, I think this is going to be a great add, especially if you're ever concerned about any water damage. So just wanted to throw that in there. Back to the rest of the video. Another thing that I think you pretty much cannot build a smart home without is going to be door and window sensors. So the reason I got into smart home stuff in the first place was because when we'd get home, like we bought a house, you know, we had kids, whatever. When we'd get home, I'd always be like, oh my gosh, like we left the garage door open, or like, why is this basement door open? We didn't leave that open. And in my head, I'd start to panic and convince myself there's somebody in my house, or like, you know, whatever it was. And obviously that was never the case. I'm still here, everything's fine. But it would plant this little seed of fear where I was like, somebody's in my house, or somebody broke in, or why is this door open? Oh my gosh, we left the garage door open, whatever. So that was one of the reasons I started getting into smart home configurations. And I found the coolest thing, Eve Energy, they also make the smart outlets, they make door and window sensors that are awesome. So for me, one of the first things we did was we bought a couple of them to do a test try. And we put one like on the garage door, we put one on the back door, and we put one on the front door. You can get a pack of 3. I think it's like $100 or $120 if you buy it directly from Apple. And it was awesome. I mean, it's literally just like the front door opens, boom, you get a ping on your phone, the front door open. You get a ping on your watch, the front door open. I get a ping on my MacBook, the front door open. Like, it's really cool. You can configure the notifications to tell you, like, hey, this door opened, or only tell me if this door opens after 10 p.m., right? After 10 p.m. or before 8 a.m., only notify me in that window, right? Like you can configure custom notifications. There's a lot of different things you can do, like only notify me when I'm not at home, right? That's one you could use. There's a lot of things you can do. I like to leave it on just because it's kind of cool to see them all flowing in and stuff. And when iOS 17 comes out, they are going to bring activity logging. So when a door opens and then closes, you'll be able to see, hey, this door was opened at this time, this door was closed at this time, which is something I've been wanting for forever. Because, you know, as soon as you X out of that notification on your phone, like it's gone. You have no idea what just happened. You can't see it again. So that'll be nice to have. But anyway, those door sensors and window sensors are phenomenal. So we bought those and it was incredible. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So then we bought one for every door in the house. So we initially started with, let's start with any door that somebody would have to go through to get to a section of the house. Like we'll do one for the front door, we'll do one for the door to the basement, we'll do one for the door to the garage, and then one for the garage door and the back door, right? So we have like every possible entryway to the home has a sensor on it. And it was so cool because you can start to like see the patterns of like, we always go through these doors at these times and these doors through these times. So that enabled me to build my own security system using Apple shortcuts and Apple automations. I'm gonna do a video on that in the future, but suffice it to say, once you have the door sensors in place, like the sky's the limit for what you can do with them. I mean, you can literally configure when a door opens, if it's after this time, check to see if this outlet's turned on. If this outlet's turned on, play this song in this room. Like, and if for our security system, when a door opens after, you know, whatever set time it is, it'll actually check to see if an outlet is powered on or not. And that's our security monitor. It's not like a thing you type in a code on the wall. It's just a nondescript little outlet that nobody ever looks at. But if it's on, that means the security system's on, right? And then if the security system's on, as soon as that door opens, like I have it configured to text me on my phone, like, hey, this door just opened. And like I have it set up so the rooms around that door will all start playing like intense alarms from the HomePods, and like a speaker from a couple of rooms back will start making a dog barking noise. Like it mimics the exact response you'd have if somebody broke into your home. It's really cool. And I paid $0 for it. You know, obviously I paid for the door sensors and stuff, but like I built it all myself. I chose the alarms myself, the dog noise, the shortcut, and the automation took maybe like a couple hours to get like working once I built it. It's really cool. So I'll do a video on that in the future, but the door and window sensors are phenomenal and they're really, really easy to use. I mean, it literally is like put the battery in, peel the 3M tape off, stick it on the top of the door. Like I always put it in the top of the door. I either put it all the way at the end if I just want to know open or closed, or I put it like in the middle if I want to know if it's like closed but not completely closed. You know, like we close our kids' doors at night to, you know, so them to let them sleep a little bit quieter. But a lot of times we don't close it all the way. We don't like push it till it clicks. We just close it so it's like it touches the door frame. And if you put it in the middle of the door, you can actually tell like, oh, hey, it's closed because it's within the magnetic period where it senses that it's closed. But super easy to set up. I mean, it seriously is like scan the code, name it, pull off 3M tape, put on door frame, pull off 3M tape of the sensor, the other part of the sensor, put it on the door, boom, you're done. Amazing. Absolutely recommend those. They're awesome. They make a new one for Matter too. So like even if you aren't an Apple HomeKit person, or you have, you know, a Google HomeKit, Apple, you know, whatever else, Amazon, whatever, it'll work for all of them. I personally use the Matter ones, but I use them for Apple HomeKit still. It doesn't really matter. They work the exact same way. So definitely recommend those. I put one on my garage door before I got a smart garage door opener. And I also put them on like windows and stuff. And I mean, literally all it is is the connection point close enough to the sensor to say, yes, it's closed, or no, it's not closed. And then you can configure everything else about what you want to do when it opens or closes. So definitely recommend those. One thing that I think a lot of people are gonna want, but not know exactly what to get, is gonna be video cameras and smart home doorbells. So for our house, what we did was we went ahead and we selected Logitech, right? I know there's a lot of other ones out there, a lot of other video cameras out there, but the Logitech ones while the reviews aren't incredible, I think it's mostly user error or something, because I think they're great. Like, you literally just connect them to your HomeKit, you scan the code, name it, and then boom, you're done, and you just plug it in wherever you want to put it, and that's it, right? And they're weatherproof. You know, they are wired, so you don't have to worry about charging stuff. So like in our house, what we did was we actually just put them in a couple different rooms. Like the kids' room has one, so when the kids woke up from naps, we could tell, like, oh hey, they're climbing out of their bed, right? Like it would be like motion detected. But the Logitech Circle View and the Circle View Doorbell are phenomenal. So it's the exact same experience for both of them, except the doorbell is a doorbell with a built-in, well, I guess they both have a built-in speaker, so it is the same experience. Basically what they do is they work with HomeKit to stream the video directly into your HomeKit setup, and then it just stores little sections of it. So you can say like, record any movement, or only record movement where a person was recognized, or only record movement where a vehicle was recognized, right? Or only notify me if a vehicle was recognized. It has almost infinite things you can do to say notify me or don't notify me in these circumstances, or record or don't record. Some of them you can say like, I don't want it to record, but I want it to stream, right? So if you had a room where like it's a bedroom, whatever, you want to have one in there in case somebody ever broke in, you'd have a video of it, but you don't want to record yourself changing, you could just set that camera to only stream and not record. So there's plenty of options, but the Circle View is definitely, in my opinion, the best. You get the night vision. It has built-in facial recognition, which is wild. It will connect to your Apple Photos. If you enable this, it'll connect to your Apple Photos and it'll see the people that you have labeled in there, right? So my son Henry, I have him labeled in there so I can see all the pictures of Henry because it has the facial recognition already from the Photos app. When he rings the front doorbell, all the HomePods in the house are configured. They automatically work with this. You literally just go in and say, I want to ring the doorbell on this, 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 and this, and it rings the doorbell on the HomePod. It'll, instead of ringing, it'll actually say like ding dong, and then it's like, Henry is at the front door. Like it literally announces who just rang the doorbell at the front door. So super cool. There's just lots of little tiny features. Like if you're watching your Apple TV 4K in the living room and somebody rings the front doorbell or sees motion, boom, it just pops up in a tiny little picture-in-picture window there. You can live see what's on your front porch, or live see the bedroom, or wherever your camera is, right? Like it has so many little things that just interact so well with all the Apple products. So like being able, you can actually control you can look out your video cameras, your doorbells, whatever, from your Apple TV. You can do it from your MacBook, your iPad, your phone. If you're on your phone or your iPad or your Mac even, when you connect to one of them, there's an option where you can click the talk button and you can speak, and it'll project your voice out of like your doorbell or out of the cameras even in the bedroom. Like it's just an amazing experience. It has every feature you could possibly want from a video camera. You can even go back and like, what was that thing that, that video of me and the kids 2 weeks ago, and you find that video clip and you can just share it. You can export it directly to your wife or whoever you want to send it to. Like you can just tap the share button and share it. Like they're great. I love it. My only complaint is I wish they had a better or more sophisticated outdoor one. I would love to have one, put above my garage door, just to see when people pull in the driveway or whatever. Like that's one thing I would love. But the Circle View is amazing, and stupid easy to install. I mean, seriously, it's just plug it in, scan the code, and you're done. The doorbell is a little bit more complicated. They don't have a wireless version, right? So like if you don't have a normal doorbell wired at your front door, they don't have one where you can just put it there and not have any power running to it, like some doorbells out there. I think Nest or some of the other doorbells can do that, but Circle View doesn't do that. So we did have a doorbell already connected there, and we had an electrician come out and they just pulled the old one off, put the new one on, wired it up, and he's like, do you want the chime on or off? And I was like, off. And then it's just as simple as going in the Apple Home app and just saying, yes, I want it to ring on this one, this one, this one, and this one. So like the first thing I did was I turned on all of them except for the kids' bedroom so it wouldn't wake them when they're sleeping, and my desk downstairs so it won't ding on my HomePod when I'm working and in a meeting. It's great. And then I still get like the ping from my phone, but it's like my phone's always on silent, so it vibrates. And then like I'll get it on my Apple Watch. Like I can talk to the person through the doorbell and see them from my Apple Watch. It's amazing. It's a really cool experience. So Circle View doorbell. It has night vision. It's weather resistant. It has a really nice wide angle lens. The quality I feel like is really good too. It's not like crystal clear, obviously. You know, at this price point, I think these are usually about 150, 160 bucks. So they're not super cheap. But from what I've read and seen about a lot of other video cameras out there, I think these are pretty much the best of the best, with the least amount of issues. I will say sporadically those ones will drop. It'll say like bedroom disconnected, bedroom reconnected, and I'm not sure if it just overheats from being on all the time or what. I know a lot of people complain that they do that. I don't really care because like in my house, nothing ever loses Wi-Fi connection, ever. It just works and it's awesome. And I have that Amplify Alien router and everything always stays connected. These do occasionally disconnect and then they just immediately, like I'm talking instantly, like the same notification bubble pops up where it's disconnected, connected at the same time. So for me, it's not a problem, but some people I know have had issues. I think those people have had issues maybe just overall with their HomeKit stuff staying connected. But again, I think that comes down to the router you're using, as well as maybe the quality of your internet service provider. So anyway, Logic, Circle View, Doorbell, and the Circle View camera are the ones I'd recommend. They're great video cameras. I don't think you will be disappointed with those. Next up in the video, I want to talk about smart door locks. So there's a lot of smart door locks out there, especially for HomeKit, and Apple's started pushing them about a year ago. Apple released the Apple HomeKey, you know, functionality where it's like, yeah, now your phone is a digital key and you just tap it and boom, you're in your house. Or you send a key to your family member and boom, now they're in, and it tells everybody else like blank just unlock the front door, like with their name. Like they really started pushing some of the smart door locks. But I think, so if we got the Schlage Encode Plus, it was one of the first ones to release with Apple HomeKey support. And it's been amazing. I'd never heard of like that company, Schlage, until this point. I cannot say that word. I'd never heard of them until the point where I got them. And I can't imagine using a physical key ever. I mean, it's seriously weird. Like, so you literally, we went and we just took off the deadbolt on the door that we already had in front of the back door, because we bought two, one for the front, one for the back, and you just follow the instructions. We installed it. It was super easy. You can set up so you actually pair it with the mobile app, and you also pair it with Apple HomeKit too. But then once you have it set up and everything, you can actually go in and say like, in your Apple HomeKit, there's a section for like guest users or people who aren't like you, right? Like obviously, you know, anybody from your family, they're part of, you add them to your HomeKit, they're part of your family, they can access anything in the smart home, and you can give them limited or full maintenance, you know, to change things and rename stuff and move stuff. But for the door, you can actually say like, I want to give this person, this guest user, this code, right? And then you just type in this code, 4-digit, 6-digit, whatever. And when they go there, they just punch in their code and hit the unlock button. And boom, on every Apple device you own, you instantly get a ping that says, this person, whatever their name is, just unlocked the front door or just unlocked the back door. Like, it's cool. It's really neat. And I love that, because if my wife's friends want to come over, you know, like, you know, one of them wants to come over, they just type in their code, whatever, and then I get the ping and I'm like, all right, so she's at the front door. Like, I just need to make, you know, I know who's in my house, I know what's going on. It's just nice. And then there's, you know, there's some other things too. Like obviously the home key is great. I have never had to reach for my house keys since I bought this, ever. I mean, it's like, we literally could have no power on the entire block. That's happened before. The entire block lost power in the middle of like the winter, like a snowstorm, and it just boop, and it just senses it and it just opens the door, because it stores, I don't know how it does it exactly, but essentially it just knows to recognize this home key or these home keys or these codes, right? So even when there's no power, because the door lock is obviously battery powered, you can't have a wire running to it, you just tap your watch to it, hold it there for a half a second, or hold your phone to it, and the key just flashes up, and it just goes boop, and then you hear the door unlock, and that's it. And it's super nice. And you can configure like, you can go in the app and you can configure to say like, auto lock the door after 5 seconds or after 15 seconds, right? Like however long you normally take to close the door, you can auto set that. So as soon as the door closes, then that timer finishes. Like, so it's like you close the door and then there's like 3 more seconds, 3, 2, 1, boom, the door locks. You never had to touch anything. You never had to get your key out. You never had to like actually unlock the door. You just tapped your watch to it and then it locked itself. And it's cool. I actually don't use that. I use the Eve door sensors I mentioned earlier, and I have an automation configured where whenever a door closes, it'll wait 5 seconds and then lock itself. So instead of just waiting 5 seconds, it actually specifically waits until the door itself closes and then it locks itself. That being said, one of the coolest things about having smart door locks is never ever forgetting to lock a door in your house. So when I configured my custom security thing, every night at 8, I think it's like 8:10 p.m. or 9 p.m. or whatever the times I have set up, what it does is it'll actually scan all the door sensors I have set up and all the door locks I have set up. And if it sees that a door lock is not locked, it will then check to see if that door is open. If the door is open, it will notify me on my phone and my watch and my MacBook. It'll say, hey, FYI, this door's open, so we can't close this lock. And then if the door is closed, instead, it'll actually lock that door for me and then tell me, hey, the door was unlocked, but I went ahead and locked it for you. So I always know every night when I'm going to bed, I'm just like, look, I'm like, oh yeah, all the doors were closed and locked. Like, I'm good to go. Don't even have to think about it. Don't have to check any doors. Like, this is that thing where I was talking about earlier. Like, I'm kind of paranoid a little bit about like making sure the doors are closed, making sure the doors are locked, making sure we close the garage door at night, like all that stuff, because we've missed it before in the past. So being able to have that where I never have to think about it, I just see all the doors are closed and locked and I know I'm good. It's amazing. So being able to, you know, from anywhere be like, did I lock the front door? And you can just look and instantly see, you know, amazing. So get the Schlage Encode Plus. It has never not functioned for me. It has always worked. It's so reliable. It's like scary how good it is, because you wouldn't think that anything would be, you know, that perfect, but it's awesome. So Schlage Encode Plus, definitely recommend. I know there's a couple others out there. I haven't used any of the other ones really. I know most of them are probably going to be a pretty similar experience. But for me, I think just the overall look of the Schlage Encode Plus, as well as the fact that it also has like a code that you can type in and stuff too, and an app to get the firmware updates and everything. The overall experience of that was great for me, and I couldn't recommend anything else at this point. All right, so this one is going to be a little bit trickier. So with this one, we had a what you could call a dumb garage door, right? It was push the button, the garage door goes up, push the button, the garage door goes down. I wanted to make it a little bit smarter, so I bought the Eve door sensor and I put it on there, and then boom, every night I can now tell if the door is open or closed. If the door's open, I have to go close it still though. It wasn't smart, it just could tell me if the door was open or closed. So what I wanted to do was get a garage door that was going to be a little bit quieter, and then get one that was also had smart home features, right? So this is kind of a two-parter with that. The first thing was smart home features. I couldn't really find any that specifically said they supported HomeKit. This may have changed over the past year and a half. I'm not sure. We installed this about a little over a year ago now. I've been using it, but at the time, at least, especially in the price range of what I was looking at, which was like $200 or under, kind of, or I guess like $250. I couldn't really find anything that just blanket was like, yeah, you can connect this to your Apple smart home. So we went with a Genie, I think it's the Genie Aladdin, if I remember correctly. And that garage door is really, the garage door opener is really cool because we got everything installed, we got it set up, we set it up with the Genie app, and the Genie app lets you open and close the door. You make an account and you pair it to the garage door and everything, right? And you have to connect the garage door to like your Wi-Fi, all that stuff. But once you have it set up, you can just tap a button to open and close your garage door in the app, which I thought was fine. That worked fine. Downside to that though, you couldn't say, you know, hey blank, close the garage door, or hey blank, open the garage door, right? Who cares? It's not the end of the world. But that app eventually did come out with shortcuts that would let you open and close the door, but the shortcuts were kind of janky. So sometimes shortcuts on iOS, like configuring them can be difficult. It depends on how easy the manufacturer makes this shortcut support, how easy they make it work. In this case, you had to like specify them, like the MAC address of the garage door opener, and then like its specific name on your Wi-Fi network or something. Like it was really weird. When I set it up, it automatically filled it for me, but then later I had to like delete it and recreate it or something, and then I couldn't figure out which things to set, and it was a really big problem. It was really annoying. So anyway, long story short, you could open and close the garage door from the app. That was fine, but it wasn't really what I wanted for a smart home. So then I started looking at, and this is the second part, HomeBridge. So HomeBridge lets you take a Raspberry Pi and install HomeBridge software on it. You have to have a different computer, and you actually, I like on my Mac, I had to download something, and then I had to like choose which Raspberry Pi OS I wanted, and HomeBridge was one of the options. So I went ahead and picked HomeBridge, and then you like flash it to an SD card, and then you have to plug the SD card into your little Raspberry Pi, and then get that powered up, and then get that all configured. So it is not an easy experience. It is not like as easy as setting up HomeKit. It's not as easy as setting up a smart home thing on the Apple thing where you scan a barcode, hit add, choose a name, and that's it. Like it's not like that, but it's so cool. So for us, for the smart garage door opener, what I did was I actually bought a Raspberry Pi. I got it all set up. I got HomeBridge installed on there, and it took a little trial and error, a little bit of research on the internet. There's plenty of places that have guides on how to do this. But I got everything set up, and then I went to plugins and I searched, and there's a Genie plugin. So I immediately installed that plugin. It was like a certified one, right? Like they're called certified plugins or something. And I installed that plugin, and then I signed in with my credentials that I'd set up for the app, and then I added the garage door basically to my HomeKit. It actually shows up in my Apple Home app. If you like go into it and click on settings on the device, it'll say like, this is a non-certified device working with HomeKit. This may not work as intended. Like it has a whole warning. It works totally fine. It is awesome. So as soon as you get it set up, I set up like a bridge for it in HomeBridge. You can actually set up like individual bridges for each device. So if that device fails, another device won't stop working because of it. Like I had it configured for my garage and something else, and I think I changed the password on my garage door account, and then like something else started failing from my HomeBridge setup because of it. So anyway, but I set up a bridge for it, and then just added it to my Apple HomeKit, and it just worked, and it's crazy. I mean, it literally, they take the functionality of the app and they just repurpose it, rebuild it, whatever, to work in HomeKit, and it's great. So now I can say, hey Blink, open the garage door, or hey Blink, close the garage door. Is the garage door open? So many different things. And then you can also utilize it. So when you're building your shortcuts, instead of having to work with, some of the jank of like the Genie shortcuts, you can work with just the pristine Apple shortcut where you literally just say like, what is the status of this garage door? If it's open, then add a thing that says close garage door, and that's it. Like, so I added that to my security system. So now it's like every night when it's checking all the doors, if the garage door is open, it sends a command to close the garage door, and then tells me, hey, the garage door is open, but we went ahead and closed it. I never have to think about it. It just is always closed, and it's great. You can also configure things. I have something set up on mine where whenever the garage door opens, it starts a 15-minute timer, and then at 15 minutes, it'll look to see if the security monitor's on, that outlet. If that outlet is turned on, then the garage door thinks that the security mode is active, so it'll actually close the garage door. So it's literally a 15-minute timer to make sure my garage door is always closed. But then if the kids are like playing outside, whatever, we can just turn off that security monitor, and then the garage door will stay open for as long as we need it to, because it hits the 15-minute timer, sees the security monitor is off, and just leaves the door open. But just having that option is amazing. That garage door opener is really, really cool. It works great. I have noticed sometimes when I tend to use my watch, my phone more than anything to open the door. But sometimes when I do that and then try to use like my car one or like the keypad or whatever, those don't always tend to work. Sometimes they just like don't work for some reason. I think it has something to do with how the garage door authenticates with the randomized code that your car sends whatever to it. But Just something I noticed. Either way, it works great. It's awesome. Alongside that, with the HomeBridge setup, it's kind of incredible how many things you can set up with HomeBridge. So on my HomeBridge, we've already added Nest support, right? Google Nest. So my thermostat, which does not support Apple HomeKit at all because it's a Google product, works on my HomeKit. It's set up on my HomeKit right now. I can go in, I can, hey Blink, set the temperature to 62 degrees, like, you know, just because I like it cold, right? You can, hey Blink, turn on the house fan, like whatever you want to do. It just works. It's, you literally just search for the plugin, like hope that it's there, which that one was there because a lot of people have Nest devices, so they made one, or you know, somebody made one. But you just find the certified Google Nest plugin and then install the plugin, sign in or set it up however you have to set it up, and then just add a bridge for it and add it to your HomeKit, and boom, it just works. And it works on every HomePod in my house. It works on my watch, my phone, my MacBook, my iPad. It's crazy. So just being able to control non-HomeKit designed devices in a HomeKit is amazing. One of the things now I do whenever I'm shopping for any kind of device that I think I might want to have as a smart home device is I'll look to see if they support Apple HomeKit, and if they don't, I'll look to see if HomeBridge has a plugin for it. A great example is there's a company that makes these humidifiers. I believe it's Levoit humidifiers. And they have a plugin for HomeBridge. So I bought a humidifier. Actually, I bought two matching humidifiers, one for our bedroom, one for the kids' bedroom, because it gets really, really dry here in the winter in the Midwest. So we use these humidifiers, but it was kind of annoying every night to have to remember to turn it on, make sure to turn the light off and set the speed and all that stuff. It was kind of just like annoying. And then the next morning, like I'd wake up for work before the kids and my wife would. So I'd have to go in and I'd have to like turn them off to make sure, because my wife's not going to do it. Like nobody's going to remember to turn them off. So I didn't want to waste water all day for no reason if nobody's in that room. So I found a plugin, I got it set up with HomeBridge, and it just worked. It's crazy. Like you just add it and boom, you're in HomeKit and you can control both your humidifiers. And they're like, you just add it to the room, you name it. The humidifier, the Levoit one, has a couple different features. Like I think it has like a fan version where it just, I'm trying to think, it has a couple different things in there. But you can literally go in and set like night mode. So it's just like quiet, blowing a slight amount of humidity, but it's really quiet and the lights are off, or you can just turn the light on. And so what we were able to do was to build automations again, where it's like every night at 9 p.m., set all the humidifiers for Levoit, set this one and set it to full blast, turn the light off. And set this one, set it to 80% and turn the light off. And that's it. And then I had another automation that every morning at 7 a.m., turn off the humidifiers in both rooms, and it just sets them to completely off. Like, it's so insane. So anyway, HomeBridge is awesome. The features are endless for HomeBridge. I hope Apple never stops supporting it. I can't imagine that they would, or they could, I don't even know, but I use my HomeBridge setup for everything. It's devastating to me whenever my house has its temporary blip and I lose power for a half second, because then half the things that I use for HomeBridge stop functioning until I go turn the Raspberry Pi back on. So I'm gonna get at some point like an EPS thing, or I think it's called an EPS thing, UPS, uninterrupted power supply, to actually make sure that it never loses power, so that if we ever do have little power blips, it'll continue working. But yeah, HomeBridge is awesome. It's not the easiest thing to use. It can be rather difficult. You do have to know how to just like kind of research on the internet. Like if you have an issue or something, you have to be able to do that. You have to know how to connect to a local device on your network, you know, doing like the 127.0.0.1 or whatever it is to find like a local device on your network. Like you have to figure out some of that stuff or research some of that stuff. But if you really want to get a smart home, that is a really easy way to get support from a significant amount of devices compared to just what Apple limits you to, just immediately, just by buying a Raspberry Pi and turning that on. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure you can actually install HomeBridge on not a Raspberry Pi. I've not tried that. I don't know if it actually works, but I know Raspberry Pi prices are still insanely high. I'd imagine there's some way that you could get it to work on a non-Raspberry Pi device. So definitely a lot of options out there, but I highly recommend HomeBridge. So I covered a lot of stuff today. Hopefully you guys liked a lot of it and thought it was interesting. I know I covered everything from electrical outlets to door sensors and video cameras and, you know, custom HomeKit setups with HomeBridge and garage door openers and door locks. I mean, I think I hit pretty much everything you could want from a smart home. But I hope you guys liked, you know, everything I talked about, and kind of understand that this is the stuff that I've used and had an incredible experience with. Not necessarily the only things you can use, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things out there that'll get you pretty much exactly where I feel I am in my smart home setup, right? Where it just, you get to the point where things just work and you don't even think about it. Like, you go to somebody else's house and you're like, oh my gosh, you have to use your keys. Like, obviously I'm kind of joking, but you know, some of the issues that I've had with my house are just annoying things, or working with humidifiers, or working with fans, or, you know, sound machines, or, you know, making sure the doors stay closed and doors get locked at night. All these things I've been able to fix and build what I consider to be the perfect smart home at a semi-reasonable price. I mean, realistically, I think we're probably around $1,500, maybe $2,000 total, but that includes like the ability to listen to music in every room, speakers in every room, you know, Apple TV 4Ks to watch content on the TV and be able to control the TV without a remote, you know, being able to control humidifiers and, you know, view security cameras in different rooms and outside the house and on the front, you know, doorbell, and even like lights on the backyard and floodlights. I mean, just so many things. So it's like a lot of money when you're really thinking about it, but you know, if you just piece it together where you just buy a couple here, buy a couple there, by the end of it, you know, as you've grown your HomeKit support and your HomeKit devices, you just hit this point where you're like, wow, this is really cool. I have everything I need. There's nothing else. Like, now I'm just kind of in the I want to have, you know, the Philips Hue, you know, DVD player thingy where you just plug your, you know, device into it and it strips the color off of it to make the lights light up around the TV, and then passes it on to the TV still. Like, you know, I want to have stuff like that, but I don't need it. And everything I do have has such a utilitarian use where it's like making sure the doors are locked, making sure the doors are closed, making sure that the humidifier keeps the humidity above a certain level, making sure that, you know, my house temperature is exactly where I want it to be at exactly the right time based on the temperature in this room. Like, there's so many cool things, and Apple's always adding new features too. Like, I mean, literally the HomePods we bought 3 years ago got a software update in the last year that gave us the ability to see the humidity of the room around it. You can literally get the temperature and the humidity of the room the HomePod is in from the HomePod. It just has that built in, and it just wasn't activated. So like, Apple's always adding new features. You know, the new logging coming out in iOS 17, where you can actually see, you know, a logging of this door open, this door closed, all that stuff. You know, this person rang the doorbell, this person opened the door. Like, just, they're always adding new features. It feels like it's getting better and better. But, and like with most Apple things, if you just kind of dive in head first and just really immerse yourself in the Apple ecosystem and using, you know, maybe an Apple Watch, but definitely using like an Apple iPhone and the Apple TV 4K and using like a HomePod, you know, you're gonna find more and more things where you're just like, wow, that's really cool. Like, the doorbell that you have mounted on the front of your house connects to your HomeKit that reaches out to your photos, that gets your people you've labeled in your photos to tell you when they're at the door when they ring the doorbell. Like, it's this incredible connectivity of the ecosystem. So I love my HomeKit. I couldn't live without it. Like I said, I've tried Alexa before. It just didn't work for me. I had some privacy concerns with the Sidewalk stuff, and I don't think they explained it very well going in, especially in the fact that Amazon Sidewalk was it was automatically opt-in, and you had to go in and opt out. There's just some really sketchy stuff with that, so I wasn't a huge fan of it. But I have nothing but good things to say about HomeKit, and these are some of my favorite devices that I use every single day with my HomeKit setup. So hopefully you guys like them. Hopefully you guys like the video. If you guys did like the video, please, you know, like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Tell me kind of what you thought of the video, some of your favorite things. If you do end up like buying any of these accessories, or you have any of these accessories, you know, let me know what you think of them. Let me see if you like them or don't like them. If you have little glitches or whatever with them, you know, whatever. I'm always curious to see how other people's experiences are going. If you have accessories I didn't mention in the video that you think are awesome, let me know too, because I'm always open to try something new. So like, if you guys have an Ecobee, right, which does support HomeKit, if you have an Ecobee, tell me if you like that versus Nest. You know, let me know what you guys like in the comments, and just keep in touch. So thank you so much, guys. I'll see you around.